out on YouTube, Facebook, and X. And for the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. And that's just a sampling. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. For laptops, mobile phones, and tablets, download the Roku app. National Streaming Sports, live and on demand, sports talk for America.
Football season is here, and SeatGeek is my go-to for buying tickets. Now, with SeatGeek, every single ticket is backed with their buyer guarantee. We've all had plans change, and when you can't make it to the big game, SeatGeek has you covered. They're the only ticketer that allows you to return your tickets ahead of the event for credit with SeatGeek swaps. So when things come up, I know that my tickets won't go to waste. So what are you waiting for? Download the SeatGeek app to maximize your possibilities and shop live events with confidence.
Yes, sir. A little pick-me-up music early in the morning, Wednesday morning. We play that song Mondays and Wednesdays. I just get everybody psyched about today. It's Wednesday. I'm here with not only my partner, my friend, my co-host has been with us. We've been together for a while now. The great Jack Hirsch. I want to thank, before we start, Gene Walczak. He came out. I interviewed him. Check it out on YouTube and on our Roku channel. He's the CEO of Wire to Wire. Great host, great producer, knows a lot about sports. It was a great interview. So shout out to him before we begin. And Jack, you know, we're getting to the end of the football season. It's kind of sad, right? We're going to smush all the wild card games into one weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And when that's over, of course, then we start doing the division playoffs. So it's getting near the end, and you know, and we also got the NCAA Final Four coming: Notre Dame, Penn State, Texas, and Ohio State. And you know, I think it's going to be a couple pretty good games there. I think Notre Dame and Penn State. A lot of people are picking Penn State. They like their defense. They like their offense a little bit more than Notre Dame, even though Notre Dame is a slight favorite. Of course, you know Notre Dame is my team. Get your thoughts on that first. I mean, look, I don't follow Penn State. I follow Notre Dame, Fighting Irish. I'm Irish. La, 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 la. Since I was a kid, I followed Notre Dame, right? I really haven't followed Penn State, but I see that they have a pretty good defense, a running game, and I don't know. What are your thoughts on the game?
Penn State's got the pass rush in a game like this, and they have a couple of players projected to perhaps go number one in the NFL draft, especially Abdul Carter, you know, who should go early. And it's games like that are great games, Notre Dame, Penn State, because they go into the games pretty evenly matched. And Notre Dame doesn't really have the high-powered offense. So they could run into some problems, you know, with Penn State in a game like this. And Notre Dame's last game was basically like a celebration, you know, them winning, they're sky high. But they struggled early in the year, Notre Dame. Keep that in mind. They struggled early in the year, and people couldn't figure out what was wrong with them. But they eventually got things figured out. But at no point during this season has Notre Dame come across as being like a powerhouse team, and the same with Penn State. Unlike Texas, who seemed to be a real powerhouse team early in the year, and Ohio State, who seems to be one right now, Notre Dame and Penn State never gave that impression.
notice not a lot of people were surprised Notre Dame beat Georgia, right? They thought, and granted, you had a first-time starting quarterback, Howard, I think it was for Georgia, that played. He played pretty well too.
Out. Yeah.
Right. So I mean, you got to take that in consideration, and he played pretty well too. Notre Dame has a defense that likes to turn the ball over. They got a specialty. I mean, the young coach there has done a great job for him. I think it's his second or third year, Jack. I'm not sure exactly, but I know. Yes, yeah, he's done a really good job. I expect Notre Dame to be better as he stays there. He seems to have a way with the kids there and gets a lot out of them. And Notre Dame's history in the playoffs is not that good lately, Jack. I mean, they've gotten blown out every time they've gotten closer. They've gotten there. It'll be interesting because the Penn State coach has always been under fire because he can't win the big one against, Michigan. He can't beat Ohio State. So it'll be interesting to see if Penn State makes it, Ohio State makes it, just to see if he could beat Ohio State in the national championship. I mean, that would be awesome for Penn State. But anyway.
Well, I'll tell you, if you paired either Notre Dame or Penn State against either Ohio State or Texas, I don't think they beat either one. Okay? But what they have going for them, the winner of the Notre Dame-Penn State game, is Texas and Ohio State are going to get to beat up a little bit on one another. It's going to be a high-powered game. And maybe the winner of that game, suffer a little bit of a letdown. And the winner of Notre Dame, Penn State might be in a prime position for that particular matchup.
Yes. And we do have, of course, we have Ohio State and we have and Texas coming up Friday. We'll talk a lot about that tomorrow.
Well, think of what we got. We got Penn State, Notre Dame Thursday night, Ohio State and Texas Friday night. Then you got the NFL, the 4:30 game, and then you have the night game, Pittsburgh and the Baltimore Ravens. And then you got Sunday, the 3 games. You have your night game, and then you got Monday night. You got the Vikings and the Rams. 5 nights in a row beginning tomorrow night, Mac. Mac, are you going to watch the games? Are you just going to talk about them? You're going to watch them? You're going to really watch them. I don't mean you're going to have the TV on and you're going to be doing a lot of other things. That's
right.
The TV will be on for the whole game because you're a night out. But are you really going to be sitting intensely watching? Are you going to burn out, Mac? 5 night games in a row. Never mind the earlier games. Can you keep your mind on 3 Sunday NFL games?
I don't know, Jack. I got a lot to prepare for, man. Monday's a busy day for us. I mean, you got the Monday show in the morning, then I got another show at about 5, and then I got to get ready for Glove Fist Monday night. And not that I do a lot, but I got to get you guys in. So my mind will be, I will have the TV on. I will be paying attention best I can. We do NFL download. So doing an NFL download, we'll be doing the watch along. So I'll be there.
You're going to have to make a decision with the network soon, Matt, because Frank Laterzo, who does the boxing show with me Monday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, Glove Fist, he might want to change it to a football show. That's what seems to be transitioning.
It's getting there, Jack. It's slowly becoming not Glove Fist, but shoulder pads. I don't know what it's called.
Shoulder pad. I like that name.
All right, so maybe the show will change to it. They fired some
coaches.
Who
are you picking, Mac? For the record, who are you picking? Notre Dame and Penn State.
I think Notre Dame beats them, and I think it's because of the way they turn the ball over. I think their defense is opportunistic. They kind of remind me of the Minnesota Viking defense. I mean, they have blitzes come in, they drop back, they get a lot of interceptions, a lot of fumbles, and their special teams are pretty good. They returned one last week against Georgia. I think Notre Dame edges them out barely. I think it's going to be a great game. I really do.
Texas, Ohio State.
Ohio State is the hot team right now. This is the hottest team right now in college. It's what time of the year you're hot, right? I mean, Texas was hot early. Can they get back and be hot again? I don't know. I know Ohio State has a $20 million team there that they've with all the money they gave them players. So, but they are hot now. They had problems in the beginning of the year. They are the hottest team in college football right now. So I would think Ohio State wins it all, to be honest with Anyway, Jack, we got some coaches fired, and one
We
for
got him
some reason
fired.
wasn't. I listen. Doug Peterson. I'm not sure Doug Peterson is a bad coach, right? I mean, he led the Eagles to the Super Bowl. He got the Jags. It was his second year, or his first year. Jack brought him to playoffs. They won a playoff game, and Trevor Lawrence has been hurt last couple of years, especially this last year. I'm not sure why you fire a guy. I know it's a bad year. Everyone except Mike Tomlin has a bad year once in a while. Why fire this guy right now? Why not give him one more?
Wait. Let's don't give Mike Tomlin as an example. The man hasn't had a losing season in 17 years.
That's what I said.
You said Mike Tomlin has a bad season once in a while.
No,
Mike Tomlin never has a bad season.
I said every coach has a bad season once in a while, except Mike Tomlin.
You said except? Okay, then go ahead. Okay.
All right. So, Jack, your opinion. I mean, Doug Peterson, there are some coaches out there that are waiting to become head coaches. Doug Peterson, do you think he deserves to get fired? I know the record, he's the worst record in football. He's got the number 1 draft pick. I mean, shouldn't they give him maybe one more year? Let him try one more time. See if Trevor Lawrence is healthy, and they can maybe make a run at the playoffs again.
He didn't improve Trevor Lawrence. Doug Peterson is a quarterback coach. He was a former NFL quarterback. He was thought to be a quarterback guru. Trevor Lawrence, if anything, went backwards with Doug Peterson. Now, I'm not blaming Doug Peterson per se. Maybe Trevor Lawrence isn't as good or doesn't have the potential that a lot of people think he has. But he went backwards. And if you're an owner, you have to have a good feeling. Is this going to be my guy? Why obligate yourself to stay longer with a guy? Well, he's only been there 1 year. Let him grow into the job. What? Let him be there 4 or 5 years and then fire him? You have to have the comfort with the guy, and it's not so much winning or losing. I shouldn't say that per se. Obviously, if he's winning, he's going to stay. But there has to be a comfort level. I mean, it happened at New England with Gerard Mayo. He only had 1 year. Is it fully fair to Gerard Mayo? No. But going forward, if you're Robert Kraft, you have to think, is this going to be my guy based on the 1 year he's been with me? And even great coaches, they have a number of years somewhere and it doesn't work out. Bill Belichick was with Cleveland 5 years. He was given every opportunity. It didn't work out. But had Art Modell fired him after 2 years instead of keeping him 5 years, it would have only benefited Cleveland at the time. It wouldn't have hurt them. And sometimes you have to make a move. You don't really want to make the move because the guy's only been there, you coach 1 year. But what's he shown you that 1 year? Okay, I'll give you a better example, Matt. As a better example, Nathaniel Hackett was fired as head coach of the Denver Broncos a couple of years ago. He wasn't even given 1 year. They fired him something like 5 games short of one season. Let's say Denver decided to stick with Nathaniel Hackett. No, 1 year's not enough. Let him finish the year. He at least deserves a second year. Guess what? They never would have gotten Sean Payton to be the coach. Denver would have probably continued losing. They wouldn't be in the position they are now as a playoff team.
I disagree with you when it comes to Gerard Mayo. San Diego, the Chargers had a roster. Patriots got nobody. Who did the Patriots? One All-Pro, one player on the Patriots that would start on the Eagles. Give me one.
No, I'm not saying I felt he should have gotten let go. Okay? I would have been comfortable with him coming back for another year. But you got to consider where Robert Kraft was. He had the greatest one of the all-time great franchises in sports history. For 2 decades, New England was extremely relevant. A bad year for New England would have been losing in the AFC Championship game. That would have been a disappointing year. Okay, they went to 9 Super Bowls in the 20 years. So keep that in mind. The years they didn't go, they were always in the mix. You know, he saw the job Gerard Mayo was doing. Gerard Mayo was fumbling around. He didn't have time for a long rebuild. Maybe he should have seen that right off the bat. But Gerard Mayo would make certain mistakes. For example, he'd say it's a quarterback competition between Jacoby Brissett and Drake May. Saying that initially was dumb, because you don't want a Drake May to lose a competition. He's your franchise quarterback. But then he admits, well, Drake May outplayed Jacoby Brissett in the preseason. So he gives a job to Jacoby Brissett to start the year.
Right.
Well, if you're calling it a competition and one guy beats out the other guy, he should get the job. Then don't call it a competition. And there were other little mistakes. Listen, I would have liked to have seen Gerard Mayo get another year. Let me state that. So don't get the idea I wanted to see him go. He should have gone. New England did what was expected of them this year. It was expected only to win a few games.
Right.
That's what they did. I would have preferred New England to bring in maybe some outside help to help, Gerard Mayo. But,
Listen,
Robert Kraft, my point is this, Robert Kraft's entitled to make his decision.
Oh, he's entitled to do what he wants. He's entitled to do what he wants. But if I'm a head coach and he wants me to coach his team, and I see that he fires a guy, first time head coach, his offense, defensive coordinators, first time, no talent on the roster. Maybe we don't even know how good Drake May is going to be because he didn't. We didn't see what he could possibly do with good wide receivers and a good offensive line, a defense that's average at best. And you're just going to say, hey, Gerard Mayo, see you. And the way Robert Kraft, the way he presents this team, his organization, is like a family, right? He has Tom Brady come over for the wedding things. He has this other guy come over, Drew Bledsoe. I mean, it's like a family. That's the way he presents this organization, not like a business. He doesn't do that, Jack. He's a fan. He loves the Patriots. He loves the players. And to me, this leaves a lot of questions. Now, I don't think it's because of the color of Gerard Mayo, but it does open that door. If, white coaches versus black coaches, I'm not saying that's what happened, Jack, but it does open the door for people to talk about that. And I think what he did was wrong. You give the guy.
Why even make a race issue out of it? He hired Gerard Mayo. He didn't have to do that.
It's already in the news, Jack, that if this was a white coach, would he have fired him after 1 year? It's already in there.
Nathaniel Hackett is white, and he didn't even last a year at Denver. So if Nathaniel Hackett was black, we would be hearing, well, if Nathaniel Hackett was white, he never would have gotten fired. That's what we would have heard, right?
I don't
disagree. We would not have heard that.
I don't disagree with you, Jack. I don't think that's it, but it opens that door because you said in the beginning of the year that Gerard Mayo, and you knew you were rebuilding. There was no way the Patriots are going to be 500 this year. No way in hell. You knew the roster was bad. You knew this was your first time having a former player now. He's been with the Patriots a long time. This guy didn't just come over. He was a player. He's been a defensive coach for years. And you give him 1 year and say sayonara. And you even come out and apologize afterwards. So, I mean,
I would have Mac myself if I were the owner. I mean, right. I'm not close enough to the scene. I'm not seeing Gerard Mayo work every day. I would have given him another year. I wouldn't have had it one and done because my expectations would not have been high for the New England Patriots this year. I would have been seeing how he was building. But I'm going to tell you, who would jump at the job and who might get the job possibly if his baggage is ignored? Brian Flores. who has a history of coaching at New England, and he would want that job in the worst way. In the worst way.
I agree. So now, here we go again. If Flores is not interviewed and Mike Vrabel gets the job, what then?
Well, Flores will have interviews. There are a number of positions open. Reportedly, the Chicago Bears, there's division in the front office, division behind the scenes, but there's some support for Brian Flores there. And of course, we heard the Mike McCarthy request to interview him as well. But if Mike Vrabel gets the job, Mike Vrabel has a big history with the New England Patriots. Mike Vrabel has been, for the most part, a successful NFL coach. I mean, he hasn't gone to a Super Bowl, but he's a proven NFL coach, as is Brian Flores.
Right.
And but there's a difference involved. Brian Flores has this baggage that turns people off, suing the owner when you get let go, making all these accusations. He wasn't. Maybe he's changed a bit. He's matured a bit. He's got humbled a bit, Brian Flores. But he hasn't been that good of a guy. That does factor into it. So if you have Mike Vrabel, a more stable personality, he might think to himself, Robert Kraft, if I have to let Brian Flores go at some point, I'm going to face all this backlash. I don't need this.
Yeah,
and he's a guy who sues the owner, and he's trying to catch the owner in lies with the Miami Dolphins. And Brian Flores has a history of being cutthroat, firing his own assistants.
See, Brian Flores has a point of what happened to him in Miami. What the owner did to Brian Flores in Miami is unbelievable. Brian Flores took a team that was like 5 wins and turned them around to a playoff contender. The owner and the GM had made him go get Tua. He didn't want Tua. He wanted Herbert. That's what he wanted. That was the quarterback he wanted. They made him get Tua.
He didn't have a choice, but he didn't have a choice.
When they got Tua, he's a head coach. He's a head coach. Yes, he did. They took Tua before the Chargers took Herbert, Jack. The Chargers went after Miami. But anyway.
I think you're right on that point. Yeah,
they get Tua, and then they force him to start Tua when they're in a playoff race. And, what are you doing to your head coach? The head coach is I think they were above 500.
There's no evidence they forced Fitzpatrick.
Fitzpatrick was the quarterback, Jack. They were going to the playoffs.
He played Fitzpatrick over Tua.
No, they made him put Tua in, Jack. They made him put Tua in.
And wait. Hypothetically, if that was done, that would have been wrong. Tua is a better quarterback than Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Not at the time. Not at the time he wasn't, Jack. Not at the time.
And the coaching from Brian Flores, but how Brian Flores handled it with Tua was miserably. If that was, there's no evidence of saying
blown out of proportion.
No, it's correct.
But totally out of proportion.
But if that happened, Brian Flores took every opportunity to tear Tua down. Every opportunity.
Blown totally out of proportion.
Not at all. That's what Tua.
I do. I don't believe Tua. I do not believe Tua. I do not believe Brian Flores came to almost every practice and called him a loser. I don't believe that. I believe he said Tua came and admitted, Jack, in his first year that he didn't study the playbook. I remember that. I didn't study the playbook. Good. Well, so you're ready to be a quarterback.
I remember this stuff, man.
Oh yeah, I remember him saying that. And
I think you're getting mixed up with Kyler Murray.
Not at all. Not at all. Tua said that. Tua said he wasn't ready. In fact, he kind of apologized for it, if I remember 100% correctly. He goes in, he gets hurt his first year. He gets hurt his second year. He gets concussed his second year 3 times. He wasn't ready. And here's the owner or GM saying, play Tua. I'm the head coach. I play who I want. That's my job. Your job is to get me to play.
Wait, Mac. I've been a big Brian Flores booster, a big advocate for Brian Flores.
Right.
I mean, I would love to see Brian Flores get the Jet job, for example. I think he'd do a real good job. The defense would have, a real identity again and so on. And I think he did, on balance, a good job in Miami. But what I'm saying, he has a lot of baggage. When you start suing the owners for racial discrimination and try to make it a racial issue why he was let go, that's where you lose me. And the owner Miami, let's say the owner Miami made mistakes and he's at fault. Do you feel it was a racial issue with the owner of the Falcons?
Jack, I don't know. I don't know how else.
He hired Brian Flores, and Flores was there 3 years.
Like I said, I don't know. I really don't know what happened. The only thing I know is what I saw on TV and what I read. And I didn't read nothing about anything racially. I didn't read nothing about that. All I read was he was very frustrated. And did you see the interview Tua had with what's his name there? Idiot.
No.
So they interview him. I'm trying to remember the guy who interviewed him. Look that up for me really quick, will you, honey? The interview with Tua, the sports broadcaster that interviewed Tua about Flores. He came out, his last question to Tua was about Flores. And they both threw him under the bus. So they go to Flores and they say something to him about, how he handled Tua. And he said, listen, I made mistakes and I'm growing as a coach. He was really cool about it, saying, put on your big boy pants, and that's why you're not doing anything in the NFL. He didn't say that. I would have. He's like, well, I'm learning as a head coach. He's like, I'm trying to.
He's humble. He's humbled now because Brian Flores should be a head coach in the NFL, and he hasn't been one because of himself. He has been his own worst enemy, and he was lucky. Mike Tomlin gave him a job on his staff after the fiasco with him bringing this legal action, this class action lawsuit and all. And then Minnesota took him on as their defensive coordinator, and he's done a wonderful job with the Minnesota Vikings. And I think he's ready to be a head coach again. But once again, if I'm an owner and I might have to part ways with this guy at some time, is it going to be more trouble than it's worth it? It's got to enter owners' minds. And also, you want to hire a head coach who has a lawsuit going against another owner at the time.
There's definitely got to be a conversation or some paper signed. I get what you're saying. The interview was with Dan Lebitard. If you get a chance, Jack, I know you do a lot of things. You got a lot of things going. Check out the Dan Lebitard interview with Tua Tagovailoa. Check it out. And talking about Brian Flores. It was the last question. They set it up.
Flores to be interviewed. He's going to get interviews.
Yes.
And I hope he gets the job because the guy is a good coach. The
I
guy's
do too.
A good coach, and he's his own worst enemy. And maybe he's learned from all this.
And hopefully he doesn't lose his edge either. Hopefully he keeps his edge too. I don't want him being too humble. Right, you're coaching. It looks like he hasn't. The Vikings, despite getting beat by Detroit as bad as they did, have a great defense. So,
he's done an outstanding job at Minnesota, Brian.
So the Pats fired Gerard Mayo. The New Orleans fired Dennis Allen. The Jets and the Bears are looking for head coaches.
Dennis Allen was an coach. Well, no, Rinse. They had Rizzo, Coach Rizzo there. He was a interim coach. Dennis Allen was fired a while ago. I'm just getting through this real quick. The Jets and the Bears looking for head coaches because of their early firings. What do you think about your interim coach there, Jack? I think he's more of a Jet fan than he is a coach, but he didn't do terrible. I mean, he did awful. I mean, come on. I mean, the team was 2-3 when he took over, and what were they? 3-9. The rest of the way he did terrible. It doesn't mean he's a bad coach. I mean, it doesn't mean he can win, but it's. Yeah. I mean, an interim coach is an interim coach. Don't waste your time. Say, we hiring these guys if they have a minimum of success sometimes. I mean, their interim coach, they're just keeping the seat warm for someone who you want there long term. I mean, Antonio Pierce was just let go. And I hear because the Raiders, had some success when he was interim coach that, he's the guy. We have to have Antonio Pierce. And they hire him. 2 losing seasons in a row.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a setback. Yeah. And I don't want to hear what the Raiders, the players are advocating for Antonio Pierce to come back. I mean, if you want the guy to come back that much, win. That's all there's to it. You save a guy's job by winning.
I don't think the Raiders have a good roster either. I think they had a couple really good players. I don't think they had a good roster either. There's been, I was talking to Gene yesterday. Check this out, Jack. There were a lot of bad teams in the NFL this year. There were like 5 wins or less. I've never seen that.
Yeah, right? A lot of teams who played poorly. There were a lot of teams that were disappointing, but some straightened out, some didn't. The Cincinnati Bengals eventually straightened out during the year. Some teams never straightened out. Some teams you didn't think were going to be good, and they weren't good. No. And certain teams you thought they might be good at one side of the ball, like the Giants, who you thought would at least have a representative defense. Right. And they didn't have that throughout the year. They were disappointing on that side of the ball. Yeah. You may have thought, well, Giants will go 6-11, maybe 7-10, but at least defensively, the defense is going to keep them in games, and it didn't work out that way.
Not at all. Not at all. We talked about this a little bit. Who would you want? Let me ask you, Jets head coach. If you had a choice, your number one choice for a head coach, who would you take for the Jets head coach?
Believe it or not, the guy we were just talking about, Brian Flores. I think he would be the best guy for the job. He'd get the defense back to playing what they won to Robert Salah, actually. Right. They got worse when Robert Salah left. They get them back to kind of what they were last year. He'd straighten guys out, and he'd be the guy I'd want there. But the Jets personnel is very good. So I think coaching for them might be more important than coaching for any other team. And I mean in this respect, other teams can add pieces a little more than the Jets can. Where the Jets really going to add pieces? Everywhere you turn around, they're good players. I mean, their defense, DJ Reed might go free agent and so on, but you look at every position, they're good at every position, Mac.
I agree, Jack.
Talent-wise, played poorly. They couldn't close games out. Their defense lost their identity.
Yeah. Do you realize that the Bears, again, for the third time, Trubisky, Fields, Williams, all 3 quarterbacks were drafted with a lame duck coach. In other words, a coach in their last year. That's when they were drafted. And we know what happened with Trubisky. We know what happened with Fields. I think Caleb Williams, talent-wise, is better than both of them. But it seems to me like the Bears, they have a coach and they draft this quarterback, and I imagine the head coach helps them draft, and they end up firing him after the quarterback, after they get the quarterback and the year is over. That is a messed up organization, Jack. Messed up.
Well, sometimes it has to fall on the player. Mitch Trubisky is not that good. After Mitch Trubisky left the Bears, he's a career backup now. I mean, maybe he'll get a shot to start at some point the way Geno Smith did, catch lightning in a bottle, but I doubt it. He's a backup for the Buffalo Bills right now. Justin Fields couldn't quite nail down the starting job. He went to the Steelers, and no team, I think, would take a Justin Fields right now with the idea of him being their quarterback of the future. Yeah, I mean, he could go to a team even like the Jets or Giants, Justin Fields, and conceivably start, but they wouldn't look at him as the long-range answer. Maybe he would develop into that. You see, he's kind of on the middle. He's caught in the middle. Justin Fields, if he improves, he could be a legitimate NFL starter. But he's been, the NFL 4 years. And, and he's kind of not quite there. He's like a tweener, a little too good to be a backup, but not quite good enough to be a starter. So he's kind of like a tweener. But Caleb Williams, if you take a number of teams, if they can have him right now and he fell into their lap, they would elect to go with him as their franchise quarterback. Would it work out? We don't know for sure. But they absolutely would see his upside and say, okay, he's our guy. We're going to roll with Caleb Williams. But they wouldn't roll with Justin Fields, and certainly Mitch Trubisky didn't work out. And
I agree, Jack. The point I'm making, nobody's developing these guys. I mean, I know the Bears went to the playoffs with Trubisky. I don't know if it's first or second year. There's nobody there developing these guys in Chicago. Justin Fields, I mean, they came back. I think they won six out of the last 7 games in his last year. Nobody developed them. Is there going to be anybody there to develop Caleb Williams? I think the Bears.
Well, they didn't win 6 of it. Wait. They didn't have that type. 6 of their last. No, they didn't.
I think they won 7 games in his last year, if I'm not mistaken, Jack.
Yeah, in his last. Yeah, okay.
Yes,
but Justin Fields isn't the answer. Let's be honest.
I agree.
And you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers. If they move on from Russell Wilson next season, they're not going to turn the job over to Justin Fields. They're going to probably look at another quarterback. You never know. We'll see how that plays out. But as far as coaching goes, the Bears didn't know they were going to get rid of Matt Nagy. I mean, they didn't know. So it just hasn't worked out with coaches. That's why the next hire for the Chicago Bears is going to be a big one. And that's why there's talk about Mike McCarthy. At least with Mike McCarthy, you have a veteran coach. You have that stability, okay? And but I don't know, is he going to be their guy? All the Bears did was ask to interview him. But if they're asking to interview him before his contract runs out on January 14th, that has to tell me that they're somewhat serious. You want to know something, Mac? I think there's got to be a rule in the NFL that there should be no interviews for coaches until after the Super Bowl is over. Till after the Super Bowl is over. And maybe there should be a grace period of at least a few days, because you take a hot coaching candidate, Ben Johnson, the Lion coordinator.
Right.
I don't want him interviewing if I'm the Lions and being distracted with job interviews while the Lions in the playoffs. I just don't want that. It's unfair to the team, and especially if he gets the job. How many times have we heard, Mac, of a coordinator or another coach getting a job with another team, but he sticks with the team he's with, even though everyone knows he's going to be gone? Something turns me off because I don't feel I'm getting that guy's full commitment. Maybe he's putting in the work. Maybe he's trying. I'm not saying he's not, but he's not emotionally invested in your team anymore. He's doing it just because he's being professional. He's being cold. He's not all psyched the way he is before.
Well, I think coaches like Ben Johnson, who have a shot to win a Super Bowl, are fully invested right now. I mean, coaches not like him that are out of it, maybe not. But if you got an offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator that has a shot to win a Super Bowl, I think they're fully invested in that job.
Mac, no. If Ben Johnson got the job as head coach of the New York Jets, hypothetically, or any other team,
right?
They hire him now, let's say. Hire him soon next week. After the fourth.
They can't. You have to wait till after the Super Bowl. If the coach is still with the team and the team is still playing, you can't hire him. They can't go anywhere. They got to stay. They
can't go anywhere, but you can hire him.
But
after the Super Bowl, he can't.
But you're right. After the Super Bowl, so
But my point is this: let's say they met with him now, any team, and they hired Ben Johnson for just argument's sake. Okay.
Right.
You mean to tell me he's not going to be studying up on the other team that he's going with, not putting in time, fight information, looking up players, this and that. And it would take away a little bit from his focus with the Lions if that happened. It wouldn't be intended. He would try to his way of thinking, he'd be giving the Lions his all, but he really wouldn't be doing it. Mac, when you have more than one kid, you got to pay attention to the other kids sometimes. Okay.
I mean, I understand your argument. I just don't think that, first of all, they got to get permission to talk to him. I don't know if Detroit would give anybody permission to talk to Ben Johnson before the Super Bowl is over. In fact, I don't know if it's allowed, Jack. I don't know. Mike McCarthy's out. He's out. Dallas is out of the playoffs, and they still got to wait for his contract.
Well, he has his contract till the 14th. But Mac, the point is this: it's not fair to these coordinators who have to interview, who are preparing for the playoffs, because the interviewing process is difficult. It's not that simple. It's not like you or I just coming in. These coaches
Jack,
have to do a lot of homework to prepare for the interview process.
Do you know of one coordinator that's in the playoffs that's interviewing for a job right now? I don't know of one.
I can't say I do right now.
No, I don't either. So I don't even know if the
regular season the regular season, yeah, it just ended. So
right.
And wait. If Mac too, this is a factor. If a team is in the playoffs, a coordinator everyone knows can't leave his team during a practice week to go interview for a job. And the other owners respect that. The other owners don't expect a coordinator to come to them. They probably have gotten word to certain coordinators they would like them to interview.
Yeah,
but
I would imagine.
They're not setting up anything, unless there's an opening on the off day. Right after play.
I would think, Jack, if say Minnesota plays and they lose to the Rams, I would imagine then Flores would go and start interviewing, but not until
and he should be allowed to. Yeah, absolutely. But they wouldn't be preparing for another team.
Right, exactly. So I don't know any coordinator that is interviewing that's in the playoffs right now. I don't know of one. So I don't think it happens. But I imagine they do call them, say we want to talk to you. I guarantee that's happening.
Let's see, Mac. We can't really cover today, but let's see whether one of these coordinators gets signed by another team pending when the season ends. Then they can, come over. If that's the case, it just strikes me kind of the wrong way. We've seen it happen in certain situations, but it's what it is.
So my head coach for the Giants and GM are still there. I don't get it. I don't understand why Mara is keeping them around. Now, they both had 3 years. They've been getting worse. They haven't been getting better. In fact, they haven't been saying the same. They're getting worse. And John Mara doesn't give them a vote of confidence. He doesn't say, listen, I don't care what you all say. They're my guys. They're there. We're going to rebuild. We're going to have a good team. I love these guys. They're it. No, they say, well, yeah, I'm giving them here, but I'm losing my patience. So why keep them around if you're telling the players, everybody in the media, you're losing your patience with these guys? I don't get it. I don't get the whole thing, Jack.
Well, it's admirable that John Mara would stick with them. I don't like seeing coaches getting fired on balance, but you have to please your fan base. And the fan base has given John Mara a pass because he seems to be a nice guy. The Jet fan base will get on Woody Johnson. He's a little bit of a lightning rod now, but John Mara's gotten a pass. And I'm going to tell you, Mac, if the Giants start having another miserable season next year, the Giant fan base shouldn't be yelling fire DeBall, fire Shine. They should be getting, going after John Mara. Okay, he's the guy who should get criticized. He's the guy the fan base should be angry with. Because, we hear the term owners meddling. Owners are allowed to get involved. You just don't want to get over involved. As an owner, you can't start telling your coach, well, play this guy, play that guy, unless it's getting to the point of being ridiculous, and the coaches. But if it's at that point, just get rid of the coach. But the owner has every right to get involved, okay? I hate to beat a dead horse with the Saquon Barkley situation. Giants still would have had a losing season with Saquon Barkley. He wouldn't have been a difference maker, but he was a Giant legacy player who should have been a career Giant. And Mara could have said, no, I want him to be a career Giant. I'm telling you to work it out. And if they started talking back, he says, no, I'm telling you to work it out. You see to it that Saquon Barkley is a Giant and you work something out. And if the team gets hurt because of it, it's on me. It's not on you, because I'm having you make that decision. But he didn't do it. He let him walk, and so Joe Shine came off as the villain, but John Mara, could have done something about it.
I agree. I definitely agree with that. Tyreek Hill pulls himself out of the game in the second half and says he kind of hints he wants to go somewhere else. Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, these guys really don't make a difference, Jack. I mean, you can say maybe they give you a couple more touchdowns. You get a threat. They ain't gonna bring you to the Super Bowl or win you playoff games, as you've seen. It's the team. These diva receivers think they're a lot more important than they are. I would want nothing to do with a Diggs or a Hill or anybody like that. Give me a Waddle. Give me a Smith. You can keep Brown. I want receivers that I love. Puka, Kanuka, whatever his name is, Cooper, love them. They're blocking, they're catching balls, they're not talking trash. Guys like this, I don't even know why teams sign them.
Yeah, I'm going to say with Tyreek Hill, he won a Super Bowl with the Kansas City Chiefs. He left. Chiefs went to 3 Super Bowls after and won 2 after he left.
Yes.
He didn't have Patrick Mahomes throwing the ball to him anymore. I understand you want the money, you want to go here, you want to go there. And the biggest mistake of Tyreek Hill's career was leaving Kansas City. He would have been a Hall of Famer. He might still go to the Hall of Fame someday. Who knows? Let's see how the rest of his career plays out. But could you imagine he'd been with Kansas City all this time till now, where his career would have been? And these receivers, they sometimes go elsewhere and they don't realize how good that they have it at certain points. Yeah. But with Tyreek Hill pulling himself out of the game, totally unacceptable. I know he wants to be relevant. He wants to be a star. He's lost his identity. But you don't do that. You play it out. Then in the off season, you let the coaching staff, the GM know, I really want to go elsewhere. I played hard. Or you see the coach and GM and talk behind the scenes. I'm unhappy, but I'm going to show up and I'm going to play hard. You don't have to worry about me playing hard. I'm going to show up, play hard, but I don't like the way I'm being used.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, I again, Diggs, Minnesota, then Buffalo, now with Houston. In fact, people like that, and we talk about Mixon too, they're both like agitators. Even Mixon with the Bengals was an agitator. And then you bring in Diggs, who's an agitator. And look at Houston. I'm not saying that's the reason why Houston is playing worse. I'm just saying it's not helping them when you got two guys that are locker room spitfires, Jack.
Joe Mixon hasn't been bad with Houston. I haven't heard
Cincinnati was. He was with Cincinnati. That was one of the reasons
I haven't heard any problems. Stephon Diggs has been hurt, but while he was playing, I hadn't heard of any problems per se. Well, sometimes you don't know the type of person some of these players are. It might not be as bad as it seems. If you're a star, you want the ball if you're a wide receiver. And Stephon Diggs, there was a problem at Minnesota. Then he went to Buffalo. Apparently, there were problems. It was Josh Allen's team. Josh Allen would distribute the ball pretty evenly. And if
Right.
you're an elite receiver, the star receiver, do you buy into it? Some guys buy into it and their individual stock goes down a little bit because they're not looked at as being a star. Look, I'll tell you who's a really good kid. Garrett Wilson with the Jets. By all accounts, he's a very good kid, very polite, very nice, team-oriented guy. There's talk about, some rumblings with him maybe wanting out. And I can understand that because Garrett Wilson should be a number one receiver on the team. He's elite. Yet with Aaron Rodgers there, he's like 1A to Devontae Adams. And so I can understand there being a little bit of discontent. Mac, if you're star receiver and you only have the ball thrown to you 1 or 2 times in a half, it kind of gets to you.
I mean, listen, I get it. If you're not being paid well, I mean, that to me, it's all about status, right? That's what we're talking here. It's not so much, if you're a star status. Wilson thinks he's the best receiver in the league. Devontae Adams has already proved he's one of the greatest of all time. So here you go. So here you got a young Wilson that wants.
I don't know if Williams think he's the best in the league. I can't let that slide.
You got to think that, Jack, right? I mean, being a professional, right? You would think. Okay. Just give me that. So, I mean, to be a great receiver, you got to feel you're a great receiver. I would imagine Wilson has that confidence. So you're bringing Rodgers' buddy, who is one of the probably going to be a Hall of Famer. I mean, what do you do? How do you handle that? You say, hey, listen, I don't give a damn about it. Right. So, I mean, he became second banana, but he still contributed, Jack. I mean, he still caught touchdown passes. He still didn't get over 1,000 yards. He got closer.
It's the coaches that have to handle a situation like that. Right. You know what's interesting with Rex Ryan wants the Jet job. He says he 100% is going to get the Jet job. I don't believe it, even though he might. He might. Yeah, and I would rather have Brian Flores than Rex Ryan. I don't want to go back with Rex Ryan, but in fairness to Rex Ryan, they did go to the AFC Championship game 2 years in a row with him. Right. But then he went but they fired him after that, and then he went to Buffalo as a head coach. It didn't work out. So I'd rather go to Brian Flores' route. But Rex Ryan says there'll be no country club with atmosphere with me, with Aaron Rodgers, like missing camp, missing this. So, but let's say hypothetically Rex Ryan gets the job. Do you cut an Allen Lazard and say, look, I want the ball going to Garrett Wilson. He's our main guy.
I don't think you could tell your quarterback who to throw the ball to. As a coach, I don't think you can do that. I think the quarterback on the field sees who's open and throws the ball to who he thinks is open.
Well, you set up the offense. You set up the plays a little more.
But did he maybe go to Adams when he had a wide open Wilson? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe he didn't see Wilson being open. There's so much, Jack.
Adams is great. Adams is great. They should equal billing. Him and Garrett Wilson should have equal billing. Yeah.
And Lazard is a really good third wide receiver, a good fourth wide receiver. He's not a top 2, but I mean he did do okay for the Jets.
But if I'm Garrett Wilson, I can understand some of the throws that should be going my way of going to Devontae Adams. But when I start going to Allen Lazard, that's a little too much, for me to bear, I think.
I mean, do you buy, like you said, some buy in, some don't. I mean, I think the great ones buy in because they're going to get theirs. I mean,
even A.J. Brown with the Eagles was complaining a few weeks ago about the passing game.
I wouldn't want A.J. Brown as one of my words. I wouldn't want Metcalf. I mean, they're great. But I mean, I'd rather
make it. But A.J. Brown's right. The Eagles are not going to win the Super Bowl unless they can be successful throwing the ball.
Well, yeah,
it's not going to happen. And they have.
But I also got another receiver called Smith, and I got a pretty good tight end too. Yeah. I mean, this is what I'm saying, Jack. That's all I'm saying. Listen, if you want to win, you're going to win as a team, and I don't care how great your wide receiver or quarterback. It's the team wins the game. You know that as well as I do. Jerry Butler changing directions here. Jerry, who's his brother, both got suspended for 7 days. He said he really didn't want to play for the Miami Heat anymore, and Pat Riley said, "Okay, I'll suspend you for 7
Come on
days."
to Miami, Tyreek Hill and Jimmy Butler,
Yeah,
different
maybe they'll play
situations.
together.
Why did the Heat suspend him for 7 games? I don't get it. Okay, he said he wanted to play elsewhere, this. First off, with what he said, is it a suspendable offense? Did he dog it during a game? Was he not putting out something? Somehow I think the 7-game suspension, they're playing hardball with him. And Jimmy Butler's had problems before. Let's state that with the Minnesota Timberwolves, he forced a trade. He would be showing up late to practice or just calling in, I'm not coming into practice. Like, I'm not coming into work. Calling in, oh, I'm sick today, I'm not coming into work. And so he has a history, but he's run into the wrong guy in Pat Riley. Pat Riley's a no-nonsense type guy. He's not going to baby him or put up with this nonsense. They're going to trade Jimmy Butler, but the Heat are going to hold out till they get value.
Is Jimmy Butler value? Can you get a lot of value for Butler now when he's 37?
35. It's hit and miss. He's probably towards the end of his peak years now. But for a contending team, he can definitely be a difference maker. Absolutely, for a contending team. But what are they willing to give up? If a team feels Butler could be the difference between the NBA championship and not, would they give up multiple draft picks for him? That's the question. And maybe one of the young players with potential. In Miami, the Heat are testing the waters. They're seeing and they're getting close. The Philadelphia 76ers, Joel Embiid is very close with Jimmy Butler. From when Jimmy Butler was with the Sixers, they were buddies. Okay? Joel Embiid would be revitalized completely. If Jimmy Butler was there, this would be a Joel Embiid would be psyched. We could win the championship. I got Butler back with me. But what do these Sixers have to give? Would the Sixers give 4 number ones, for example, going forward? I'm just throwing out a number.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know. Teams got to have the chips to get Jimmy Butler. But how many meaningful chips can Miami get for him? It's intriguing. I don't know the answer.
It's a good question. Justin Verlander signs a 1-year contract with the Giants, the San Francisco Giants. Jack, I hate 1-year contracts. $15 million. I hate 1-year contracts. I think it's ridiculous.
Why?
Because what happens if you get hurt? Then what?
It's better than signing a guy for 3 years and I'm getting hurt.
Well, at least I got 2 years. At least I got 2 years. Maybe
2 years old. Why do you want to sign him longer?
Why would I want to sign him? Why would I want to sign him? Period. What has he done in the last couple of years?
He's a future Hall of Famer. He's with Texas. He showed signs that he could still pitch.
And he also did.
But he was hurt.
Yeah, and he also missed most of the season, right? So I mean,
but if he's healthy, Justin Verlander could still be an effective pitcher. And if the Giants hope to contend with the Dodgers, with the Padres, they got to make some moves. And to have Verlander for 1 year, he can crack their rotation. He absolutely can help them. It depends how much he has left. We don't know. Look, the Baltimore Orioles did something similar. They got Charlie Morton as a free agent, a 1-year deal, the Atlanta Brave pitcher, because it could help them for the 1 year compete for the division.
Yes. Well, maybe. Well, there is a professional women's league starting in 2026. Who knows? Maybe
they might. They're not going to sign Verlander.
No, they're not. They're not. Jack. Thanks for everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for watching, viewing, the possible shares. I hope you share the show later. We'll be on, we're on Roku. We're on YouTube. We'll be in a bunch of other places. Coffee and Sports should be back. It should be on after us. You have a great Wednesday. We'll be back live Friday tonight, the Professional Sports Show with a bunch of us from a different podcast. We'll be having a lot of fun and covering some sport. Have a great